Hello, and welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast with the science and screaming to determine what is the single greatest movie of any given year. Last week, previously on, do you guys have anybody have a good Ryan? When I talk about how like,
what you gotta when the movies are good.
It sound like a country bear.
You sound like some sort of country bear at some sort of jamboree.
Headed right to the jamboree.
Last week we talked about how we were going to definitely figure out what the best movie of 2024 was. We talked about so many incredible movies that we had to break it up into two shows. We showered a lot, and we are ready to do it. Mike, let's start with you, because in the intro we talk about the movies of 2024. What do you think about last week's episode of the best of movies 2024?
What do I think about last week's episode specifically?
Mm-hmm.
I think just the high flying trapeze act of wit and charm and thoughtfulness. That's my review of that episode, Ryan.
I see on Letterboxd you rated last week's episode 1.5 stars.
Oh, I didn't realize my
That's
profile was
Mike.
public.
Yeah, that's public. Yeah, everybody can see that.
I also didn't realize that you guys realized that I have been putting our episodes as movies up.
As movies, yeah. They should be thought of as movies. Caitlin is here.
I sure am.
Cassie is here.
Yeah.
And Greg is here.
I am here to start separating the wheat from the chaff.
And my name is Ryan. If I didn't already say that, I will be your host. Guys, I want to dive right in. Let's do a little fucking battle.
Let's do it, man.
In the intro. And then we'll go to like
taste.
the rest of the show.
Okay.
This is
wow.
like, you know how on Christmas Eve you get one present?
Yeah. You get your first taste of Christmas for free, but the rest, that's going to cost you.
Sometimes it's awesome. Sometimes it's, oh, cool. My Christmas Eve socks. Great.
So this is probably like my 8th best gift, is what I'm guessing.
I'm
here.
hoping.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you guys ever, was your family scratcher people in the stockings?
Yeah.
That was such a dope
Or no,
gift.
I married into a scratcher family, and honestly, it really underscores don't buy scratchers.
Mm-hmm.
You like one time I got $1, and I was like, I'm not gonna even cash this thing.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't care.
I will throw
I
that
don't give
away.
a shit. I'm
That's
not
how
gonna,
rich I am.
I'm not gonna go to 7-Eleven for $1.
You guys can play the lottery from your phone now. It's super easy, not addictive at all. I think it's going to do great things for this country.
Greg, your number 17 seed is NOSFERATU.
NOSFERATU. Okay, when we're talking TV comedies, I'm talking What We Do in the Shadows. When we're talking about TV dramas, I'm talking about Interview with the Vampire.
Is he just vamping
When
right now?
we're talking about movies, I'm talking about NOSFERATU. I'm always here for vampire nonsense. I love Bram Stoker's Dracula. I enjoyed the movie Interview with the Vampire.
No, that's a bridge too far.
I saw the original NOSFERATU, and it's a silent film, but it's definitely got a vibe, and it's very cool. This NOSFERATU rips and whips and is so much fun and is so vibey and awesome and oppressive and kind of terrible. What if instead of Dracula being like charming and you want to fuck him, what if instead he was like a pile of rats? I love it.
Talking, and
I
you
love
wanna
the
fuck them.
I love the accent. I love the mustache. I love the fact that he's not undead in any sort of like, theoretical way. He's a corpse.
A dangling
he's a
mustache.
shambling,
Yeah.
gross corpse.
I think that's so important for this movie because even Bram Stoker's Dracula, Gary Oldman had 7 different personas.
Yeah, like looks.
And some of them are gross, but some of them are sexy. All vampires are sexy, and sometimes they shine in the sunlight, which
Yes,
I
right.
do not understand.
Sparkly.
This guy was just fucking disgusting. And the more time that's gone by since I've seen NOSFERATU, I have thought about how it's Lily Rose Depp is playing an actress, and he is Harvey Weinstein, just because of how fucking awful he is to look at. Mike, is it wrong to say that this is just vibes? That it's just vibes?
It's mostly vibes, I would say. It is not Eggers' best, but I think even Eggers, it's not a miss. Anything this guy does is going to be interesting to watch.
And aren't we on the fringe of that because we, like morons, think that The Lighthouse is Eggers' best?
Is that morons? Lighthouse fucking rules.
It does, dude.
Everybody
I
else
think
is wrong.
Most people think it's the Vavitch, but I think it's the Lighthouse.
As long as nobody thinks it's the fucking Northman, we're fine.
I kind of think it might be NOSFERATU.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the lighting in this. I think did he go
Beautiful
Barry
light.
Lyndon style and just use natural lighting, or
Yes.
at least he
No.
pretended?
Yeah, he went
to.
as far as a studio would allow him.
He
Yeah,
did
and
lie and say that, so that's just as cool.
You get the sense that he did. Like it looks like he did when you watch the movie, and
Yes.
I'm not sure what the difference is there. Like highly composed shots that look beautiful and that look like literal paintings.
He got some of the best performances out of actors who also were craven this year, so you didn't think they could act anymore. And by best performances, I mean in their careers. Like, I think he knows how to work with actors and get them on his vibe. It's not just that he creates vibes. He gets anybody to gel with the world and universe he makes.
We talked about this in the horror show. You're talking about Aaron Taylor Johnson? Is that his name?
Yes.
Raven?
Yes.
The bad guy from The Fall Guy?
Yes.
Spoilers?
Yes.
And kind of the bad guy from this.
And
He's
from real
not-
life.
He's not Nosferatu, but he's kind of the biggest piece of shit in the movie.
And we talked about this in the horror show again, but Lily Rose Depp I could not believe how incredible she was doing this. Like,
Best Nepo baby actor I've seen.
I wasn't going to say the N-word, but
Keep that up. I
Also-
say underline that. Put that in your notes.
One of the best films to have post-nut clarity and the lack thereof to be what kills a villain. He was so close to coming, saw the sun, and was just like, I don't give a shit.
I also could not come every time I see my son. Like, that just ends it for me right there.
And if you're like me, it'll give you the quote of the year is walking around your house muttering, "We are neighbors."
We are neighbors. I love the way just everywhere he goes, everything goes wrong. Like people
Yes.
start going crazy and a plague breaks out. Like he is truly so much more deeply evil than I feel like any version of this character is understood to be. And still, Eggers finds some way to push through that, and there is still like the barest glimmer of sometimes charm to him.
I mean, literally and figuratively, not putting the spotlight on him in that he won't be our main character or our most interesting character, and
You
also
almost never see him
He is
clearly.
just in the dark the entire time.
And it's scary as shit. This movie is super scary, even though like it follows the plot of Dracula and of the original Nosferatu.
Which is, that's also crazy. Like, I didn't even know, I don't think, until watching this, how it was just a rights issue.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they just slightly changed the name and kept the plot word for word.
Yeah,
from
they
Bram
like
Stoker.
replaced Dracula with Orlok, and they kept everything else.
Yeah,
Exactly
and they're like,
the
"This
same.
is Jonathan Narkness." It's a different.
But yeah, there's even like a Van Helsing. I mean, it's the same thing, but it works. Also, it felt like kind of like a shout out to all of like Hollywood history and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
and I thought it worked on that level.
I mean, that's
honestly.
definitely his jam. I did hear him in an interview say that, like, now that I'm older, I'm a veteran. This is his fourth movie. I am not doing night shoots anymore. That's so fucking hard, and I don't want to do it.
I do have to say, Day for Night looks bad.
Yeah.
And I feel like they use that a lot in this. And in a movie where the light is otherwise perfect, like you can't fool the audience. It feels like daytime.
Cassandra, we moved from one threesome,
Uh-huh.
Nosferatu,
Yeah.
Lily Rose Depp,
Uh-oh.
and Nicholas Holt, to Zendaya, Mike Feist,
Ooh.
and La Chimera star Josh O'Connell. Yeah, he's on this Sweet 16 twice. Just in case you were concerned that La Chimera was not a real movie.
Who
If
would
anyone-
think that?
He's
Who
in
would
it.
think that?
Cassie, did you see Challengers?
I mean, if you're
saw
gonna
it.
think one movie is not a real movie, it being called like Chimera is actually kind of
That is
It does
true.
fit.
yeah.
I did see Challengers. This was one that was hyped up, and it did not disappoint from its hype. It's a movie that like feels like also just kind of vibes, and the music is a large part of that. Like, there's so much of it that is
Music
just
is so good. Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross on the
Yeah.
soundtrack.
The fact that this
yeah.
was not nominated for didn't just win, but not nominated for the Oscar. That's nuts.
it's so insane. This music, like it's a lot of it is just literally you're watching tennis.
The
with-
last 30 minutes of the movie is a tennis match.
Hey,
And the
sometimes
last,
they
like,
slow-mo sweat.
No, they
A
sweat
lot.
so profusely. They
go-
clearly CGI added
Yeah.
extra sweat
Yeah.
in there for this scene.
It's hot.
But it works. The thing is, it works. The last 30 minutes is the tennis match that they finally play at the end, and you are like there, and then it slows down even more so that each point takes like 2 or 3 minutes, but it totally works.
It's also them fucking, which we wanted to see the entire
Oh
time.
yeah.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
that's what's not that it didn't live up to the hype, but people are like, oh, it's so sexy that this is the most sex-fueled movie. I forgot what prudes Gen Z is. There's
Yeah.
very little actual sex in this movie. It's hinted at, so they're like, oh, my word. But
Mike,
it's
I'm gonna actually agree with you on this one because it took me so long to see Challengers, and because I didn't want
you're
to see
afraid
it.
of the sex.
I was just so afraid of the wieners.
Oh, they did not use tennis rackets. We should mention that. It was just wieners slapping tennis
just
balls.
wieners back and forth. Anyways, no, this one, by the end of the movie, I was like, wow, I really expected more ween or something or anything or more sexiness. But it just had me, it had my attention the entire time. And the ending blew my mind. And I don't know how I escaped spoilers for so long, but I was like, what?
Yes.
Wait, what?
Well, there was no Nick Fury, so
Very
it's not a spoiler.
audacious ending.
I remember reading in a book, like an Entertainment Weekly book, when I was a kid about the movie No Way Out, and it said, some people hate this ending of the movie No Way Out. We think it pushes it to risky greatness. And for some reason, that's always stuck in my head. And I think that the Challengers ending is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking about like the last 3 seconds of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I understand.
Literally the very last thing that happened.
I understand if you don't like it, but I think it pushes it to risky greatness.
Dude, come on. I mean, like, honestly, like, it earned it. The movie takes some huge swings. And totally earns it.
Got it. If you're gonna go
Also, right at the end of there, a split, I believe, triopter shot, Ryan? Triopters? That's so many opters.
Plus tennis ball cam, which...
Yes.
Tennis
I mean,
ball cam went off.
They are whacking this camera back and forth at each other, and the grunts.
Yeah.
Oh.
Man,
yeah.
in case you didn't
Talking
realize
about
that
this is sex.
tennis was sex,
Yes.
yeah. There's like, I'll not do any more of that, but you get the idea.
We've talked about how, it's the end of the era of the movie star, and there's so many actors who are in a million movies that, like, we're just sort of done with. For instance, like, I don't need to see The Rock in a movie ever again.
Right.
No, or hear his voice.
These 3 actors can be in all the movies from here on out.
Yes.
And Zendaya basically is. Like, if
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah,
put
she's got
Zendaya
that
in your
contract.
movie, you have to put Jesse Plemons
When
in it.
Dune 2 got kicked out of the bracket last week, I was like, oh, she'll be fine. She has 4 more movies.
No
Right
way.
here.
She's still got a lot of irons in the
This
fire.
is another one that, even though I think that it's doing a lot of very cool, very modern things, it feels like a movie that time forgot. Like, it feels old school because it's about adults doing adult things. There's no fucking stupid explosions. There's no noodle people here.
There's no noodle people, and it's also watching characters say one thing, their body language is saying another, and then ultimately they're saying something different than those 2 things, and that is where the drama lies. Who wins in the tennis match is interesting, I guess, but watching these 3 people become more and more complicated as life goes on. Not good people, but
Right. Oh,
complicated.
terrible people. And one of the best, hey, I love you, I knows. And, oh, man, and watching him just try not to crumple in front of her. Oh.
Yeah.
Oof.
Or, I mean, his scene, I think that Josh O'Connell might be the winner of the movie because of, early in the movie, because he's a
of his legs and how they look in that last scene.
rich boy, poor boy, right? Like, he's trying not to get off on his dad's money, but trying to talk a woman into giving him a free hotel room just through charm, and just watching him fail at that. God, did that hit home, guys. All right, Mikey, it is time. Challengers or Nosferatu?
We had talked so long I forgot what Challengers was going up against. I love Nosferatu. I love Robert Eggers. It's Challengers.
Kaylin?
Challengers.
Cassie?
Challengers.
Greg, is it a clean sweep?
No, I think I'm going to be Nosferatu.
I'm definitely Challengers. It's not a clean sweep. Thanks, Greg.
Sorry.
Let's go to... We're going to talk about La Chimera later, but right now, I do want to throw it to Cassie about The People's Joker. What the fuck is this movie?
It's so beautiful and so weird. It's one of the weirdest movies you'll probably watch. But it's also like it feels like this movie that against all odds existed. One, licensing. It took forever to get this. There was so much to clear. When you think it's just DC that they had to clear, absolutely not. There's so much more licensing and stuff that had to go into this.
Warner Brothers.
WB.
The word people.
Michael Lorne, like but you just literally you get such an honest experience of this trans story, and then it lines up with Joker in the weirdest way.
Can you tell us the story of the plot of the movie real quick?
Yeah, it's this like this person who wants to get into comedy. They were initially they were born a boy, realized from a child started to realize that they believe they're a girl. The mom shut this all down, and it broke this thing in her. And for a long time, the only way she had to cope was Smilex, which is just like a little inhaler that makes you happy. And
I call it vodka.
And she eventually gets to break free, goes to the big city, which is Gotham, and there's her dream was to get on UCB Live, where there's a couple of comedy types, and comedy has become like that's the only comedy that's illegal.
It was weird to see not just the DC universe with the target on its head, but comedy, SNL, and UCB with the target on its head.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. We've seen UCB, like, the perception of it change a lot.
Yeah.
I guess because their behavior has changed a lot over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, and you just see, like, her find a found family, but also find out who she is. She fully transitions during this time. You get to see a toxic trans relationship, like,
Hell
portrayed,
yeah.
which, like, it's just this honest story told in the weirdest way, and it's beautiful to watch. It's fun to watch.
I think the bigger pitch than it's a comedy or a parody is the comedy will be hit or miss then if you're expecting that. I think it's a coming of age trans story told through this lens, and then you can.
Although she's freaking hilarious.
She is.
Like,
she is hilarious.
She's funny. The movie isn't
Yes,
always funny.
and her
Yeah.
act isn't. Don't try to figure that out. There's a reason they keep saying anti-comedy.
No.
And so
There's some baby
Yeah.
reindeer here.
it's also taking down anti-comedy. It really, Vera hates a little everything and puts her lens on all of that. It's also very cool to Vera Drew is her name, IRL. And Vera Drew is the star of this movie, who is the people's Joker, which is really like, oh, these are her thoughts. This is what she feels about it.
The movie it reminded me the most of, and it's not Batman Forever or Batman and Robin, but it is Lady Bird. And this was a very different but similarities. Greta Gerwig, telling her story, like especially with the mom stuff. I mean, there's literally scenes with her in the car with her mom. I think this is before she transitions, but of like, oh, you are the strangest person to me. Like, you are further apart from me than anybody else, and you're my mother.
Right.
And what that would be like. The DC stuff is all just to like get butts in seats. This, I could not believe, like, this is a classic, coming of age story that we're talking about.
And also, hey nerds, if you haven't seen it and you go and be like, well, that's not canon, that's not, shut the fuck up. That's not what we're here to do, okay? It's not what we're here to do.
It feels like at this point, with Batman in particular, like it's so hard to keep track of what is or isn't canon.
This is an Elseworld.
Also, a lot like Hundreds of Beavers, it's just a very small production that could. It's amazing that something as homemade as this, and as like, and that when you see the strings, when you see the seams in this, it actually endears you to it even more. And that sort of like homemade quality is actually something that wins you over.
I'm not talking about this person now, but I'm talking about this person in 1994. This is Kevin Smith saying, fuck you, I'm going to go make my own movie. And everybody who's complaining about not having the money, you just don't have the talent.
Yeah.
Like, she has the talent.
Because it's so strange, because it's easier than ever with a cheaper budget to make something, right? And that's the thing we've been told, right? But the system is so much stronger, and the boxes are so much more defined that it's harder to break through as an indie. And Vera proves you can take on the biggest property illegally and still get your shit out there. So you're lazy, and fuck you. You can do it, you bitches.
Also, not to be cynical, but like the way to do it, like,
is by taking on the big property.
Yeah, it's like you're gonna get your name out there if you make a.
She
fucking
rode
Batman
that legal
movie.
battle. I mean, people knew they weren't allowed to see the movie, and so they wanted to so bad. Like, she made the movie in 1922.
Wow,
all the way back in 1920. But she made it in 2022, right? And it just came out a couple years ago. People were like so ready to see it, so it was not a bad move.
When that transgender came right towards the
Man.
screen. Sarah Squirm.
Mike, it is going.
Sorry, Sarah Squirm was the original Lorne Michaels, because she was like, nobody's gonna see this. And then when it was going, she's like, you can't. This is my actual boss now. I can't fucking be in this movie. And Maria Bamford replaced her because of that.
She squirmed
She
out
was
of there.
the word squirming. Oh my gosh. Colin Jost.
Mike, it's going up against La Chimera. Is this a real movie?
You know what? Some might describe it as 3 movies, kind of together. That is one beast. Yeah, this is.
No, you're thinking of Kind of Kindness.
Oh shit, that's kind of, or Beetlejuice. It is our
nobody says
our challenger. He is an English archaeologist. He has friends in Italy, and they're searching for Etruscan artifacts. Etruscan is a cool, fucking weird old time, and it's just him like
pre-Roman
Yeah.
people in Italy.
They made good pasta. He's just grown out being a scumbag. And it is if this movie is described to you as Indiana Jones, you're gonna be bored. Don't go into that. But if you're just like, archaeologists can be a lot of things and most of them don't go on adventures, you're gonna have a good time.
But if it's described to you as Tomb Raider, you're gonna be excited because that movie has to be more boring than this movie, right?
Tomb Raider is more boring than this movie. It is just like quiet, thoughtful look at these dirtbags. That's the only way I can say it. Like, and it's, the acting is great, and everybody's just kind of fucking each other
Isabella
over.
Rossellini's
Yes.
in it. She's so fucking good and weird.
This movie rules.
As you might expect.
This movie is definitely, did you get on its wavelength or not? And if you did, I mean, like, I want to say something very criticky,
Okay.
if you'll allow me, but
Let's
Do
like,
space
the
for
voice.
that, everybody.
Do the voice from the cartoon.
everybody's
It stinks.
the critic. But the movie, like, she is making you him. The director is making you him in that you have to sort of just bum around with this movie until you figure it out, and then you pass out a little bit on top of the ruins, and then you get to dig and dig and dig into this movie and show that, like, oh no, this hangout movie, this Linklater-esque, you know, it is very European with its pacing, but no, there is a ton of stuff going on. You know, this also has all of the stuff about capitalism and
it's like super realistic, but then also like super
Yeah, like,
surrealistic at the same
just
time.
Right.
little salt bays of magical realism throughout.
Yeah. He has like a sixth sense for artifacts. He almost uses like a dowsing rod technique to like find artifacts, and when he finds a really good one, as happens near the end of the movie, it causes him to pass out. He becomes like overwhelmed, and that's how he knows that he's really. But then he uses that to be like a dirtbag because he really is. He's like selling them to people that don't have any rights to them, and he gets associated like with quasi mobsters. And so it really is. It's like a vast panoply of he's in this beautiful Italy like backdrop, and then he lives in a weird, super cold shack.
And the director does an amazing job. Alice Rowan, I'll look it up. Does a great job of being in all of these beautiful Italian places and only showing them be as scummy as possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of him, this guy from Challengers,
Yeah.
who has all of the charm.
Caitlin knows.
is sort of showing off no charm, and yet still has charm. We're still like, yeah, but we like you, even though your suit is ill-fitting and probably smells gross.
Like you've sweat through it.
Yeah, there's never been a more
multiple times.
rumpled
needs-
suit.
He sleeps in a shack, just resting up against the old walls of the city, and then eventually they tear it down. Like they just come and throw it away the way the cops always do.
I love this movie. I love the also real quick the treatment of men of Isabella Rossellini plays his mysteriously gone girlfriend's mother, and he goes over to the house and his girlfriend's gone, but the sisters are there. The mother treats him like royalty, and the sisters are like, he's a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Generations.
To all the way to the servant at that house, Italia, which is an odd name.
Where's she from?
For
If
this
you think
movie.
about it.
Falls for him, but then eventually says, oh no, you are a fucking dirtbag. You are a piece of shit, right?
It's the kind of movie you want to watch several times before you have to make any sort of like statements about it. Unfortunately,
I'm
that's
a
not
podcaster.
how time works.
Mike, you're voting first. It's La Chimera versus the People's Joker.
I'm going to go with Alice Rohrwacher's La Chimera.
Thank you.
Booyah.
Caitlin?
I'm going with the People's Joker.
Greg?
I really like the People's Joker, but La Chimera felt like it had a little bit extra. Like I don't think I'll ever see the People's Joker again, but I'll probably watch La Chimera several more times.
Cassie?
People's Joker for me.
People's Joker moves on.
Woohoo!
Maybe I will watch it again.
All right. Caitlin, we haven't talked about it yet. We've been waiting this whole time. Will you please tell me about My Old Ass?
Oh, of course. So My Old Ass is a sort of coming-of-age story, in a way, of a girl who happens to take some drugs and meet her old ass, her older version of herself. And her older version of herself gives her one piece of advice: stay away from this guy. And it's her basically trying to stay away from this guy through this whole movie. Chad, fucking Chad.
If an older version of yourself was going to show up to say to stay away from any guy, The name
No, I don't
Chad.
want to. Oh, his name's Chad? Oh, for sure.
Wait,
For
that
sure.
name
made
made me think
no
why
questions
stay
asked.
away from him was going to be so much worse. I mean, it was devastating in
Oh,
a
yeah,
different
oh,
way,
yeah,
but I
of
thought it was
course.
threatening because
Yeah.
his name is Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His
The
name is
whole
The
Chad.
time.
dreamboat from Wednesday. Percy Hines White.
Oh.
Okay. Okay.
Not just
right.
that, guy. Cassie and Mike, did you recognize this actor, Chad?
The dreamboat from Wednesday.
From
Like
Wednesday.
I just said.
In something
Oh.
else? Mike and Cassie?
Sometimes you just don't listen to me, so I didn't know if it was that.
I didn't recognize him.
What if I was just like, he's the dreamboat in
Is
Wednesday?
he one of
Wednesday.
Baron von Strucker's kids from the hit
He
show
is from-
The Gifted? My nose is bleeding from
The hit?
memories.
Oh wow! Yeah.
The hit primetime Fox soap
Oh,
opera,
God.
The
I
Gifted.
blocked that
Oh
show
my
out.
gosh.
Good for him for keep going.
Anyway, sorry, Caitlin. So she meets Aubrey Plaza. That's her
Yep.
future self. And what happens?
And she does everything to stay away from Chad, and she tries to she meets him, and she's like, I don't even want to give you my name. I'm Ray Romano, which hilarious. And he addresses her as he calls her Ray for a while, which is very fun. But they just are continuously drawn back together, so she is able to text her older self and talk to her and be like, why, or ask her questions, and they get this kind of friendship, and it's just fun to like see the whole journey of like them growing together, as well as her trying to figure out how she's going to deal with, like, her older self told her to stay away from this person, but why, and she won't tell her why. By the end we do find out, but it's a very good movie.
Again, low budget, high concept, which I feel like we don't get anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like this is for all ages, basically. Like you could put this
Yeah.
on at Thanksgiving and everybody over
devastate
14
your
will
family.
love it.
Yeah,
It's so
literally walk
emotional,
out with
though.
tears
It's like so funny, and it's such a fun time at the movies. But it really, this
when it
movie
hits.
is,
It hits.
yeah.
And it lulls you into that because
Yes.
you're like, oh, what is this? A no budget Back to the Future, basically. And then the back half, you're like, fuck.
Oh, what is this? A new star of comedy being born, while an older star of comedy is having one of her best performances in the movie as well.
With the exception of Mikey Madison, I would say Maisie Stella is the
Breakout of the year.
like the fact that she's
Breakout
not
star of the year,
nominated for Best Actress. I could not believe what I was
And
watching.
regardless of the plot and the comedy, everything going around, like, so Megan Parr wrote and directed this. It's about a cranberry bog in Canada. So this is definitely how this creator grew up. It is all too specific to not be about
Yeah.
that, and I fucking love that.
Oh, you don't know it going in, but it's Canada as fuck. There's so many little things. Everyone's like
They're
sorry
all
about
polite.
stuff.
So sorry.
Also, I thought the plot was very interesting in terms of she's like identified her whole life as a lesbian up until the point she meets this boy Chad, and just that experience of being like, oh wow, like I'm discovering something about myself through meeting
Right.
this guy. I just thought it was the kind of story you have not heard a bunch before.
So it's a MAGA movie. Don't be gay anymore.
She's
Yeah,
cured
she's
of her
bi.
homosexuality.
You get bi representation, but you not only get like this beautiful story between these two that ends up being this devastating thing, but you get her talking to her old self, like what you would expect of her, like, hey, hang out with your family, like appreciate the
Yeah.
time you have with them. It's like you get two beautiful, like you see two relationships just get healed, like all the ones with her family. It's a beautiful movie.
And she's got two younger brothers, and I think it's Gay and Golf. Is that their names?
Yeah, gay and golf.
Gay and
Yeah. And so look, in the day-to-day life, especially when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, fuck those kids.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want
Yeah.
to be around them. But to have that moment with them is amazing.
She's clearly like been having some sex, and there's this whole period in your teens where you start doing that, and you're not gonna be around
Yeah.
your family because you go have
No,
some sex.
yeah.
And her the middle kid calls her out on all her horse shit. Like, he's this like preppy
Yeah.
golf kid. And golf, is that what you were saying? Like,
His name's Golf, yeah.
And he's just like, oh, you're full of shit.
Golf
He's
of
like, You
America.
think you're the star of all of this, and you actually suck a lot. And she's like, whoa, there's other perspectives in the world.
But yeah, you watch her grow a lot, and then you see like what where real growth ultimately tends to come from. And the cool thing is the whole time is like the older version of herself counseling the younger version of herself. And then it's so beautiful because really the younger version of herself shows her like the lessons that she still needs. And I've been feeling like that as someone like in my 40s.
It was so clear what you said.
That of like maybe missing some of the things you knew when you were a kid. Like you're aware of how much you have learned, but like you're also kind of aware like there's a lot I've forgotten about the world as well, and just like the fact that the messages went both ways, I thought was beautiful.
I mean, just the whole thing of Aubrey Plaza, like they have like 10 minutes maybe in the entire movie to talk to each other, and
yeah, they're not on screen more than
right.
just that. Yeah,
And the younger version's like, "Do I have this amazing life?" And Aubrey Plaza is thinking like, "Yeah, I can pay my bills. I am surviving, so therefore, yes, you do."
She's like, I'm a doctorate student. And then the younger one's like, you're still in school? And it's clear also that Aubrey Plaza comes from like the post-apocalypse.
Yes.
Yeah,
But she's
like,
not
things are
bringing it up
messed
that much. But it's just like you can hear it in everything she talks about.
Also, the one less lonely girl scene was the hardest I've laughed. I think
Oh,
I know
shit,
this movie
yeah.
is so unexpected and
Do you
so
want to
fun.
fucking throw a fastball right into a generation's forehead?
Yeah.
Like, this movie was going for a thing. And I'm not going to say that I'm part of that generation, but I watched it thinking, I bet Cassie's laughing at this.
Yeah, it was,
I don't get it,
having a
and
good
I don't
time
like
on
it.
It was the funniest shit I've ever seen.
But yeah, just to have that freedom to do whatever your movie dictates. You
I don't know that this movie does any one thing the best, like on this list, but it certainly does more types of things than any of the other movies.
Yeah. And again, like, you don't have to wow us with any one particular thing.
Yeah.
We'll be wowed by your package.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about saying that to you, Greg.
That's okay, man. That's good. That's nice.
In the last episode, Greg talked about Conclave. Does anybody else want to talk about Conclave?
Shout out to Vaping.
Yeah, Vaping Bishop was great. And then, like, of course he's a villain. I mean, they all are because they're Catholics. But, like, of course he's a villain. He's the vaping guy throughout the whole movie. We don't want to give away the ending, right? Can we? But we'll talk around it. I will say, I think, Greg, you hint.
Well, let me ask you this. Did it heighten it for you? Like, we were talking about risky greatness. Did it heighten it for you, or did it ruin it?
It was
for
a
you?
little bit of it. Not that I love the movie Remember Me, but it was a little of like, this whole movie is this,
fuck.
and now it's 9/11. It was the modern 9/11.
You're gonna bring up Remember
It's
Me
like-
and try to sell
We're
it?
slapping this like fantastic, not fantastic, but you know what I mean? Like, it was just like very left
Yeah.
field of something that felt a little more grounded the whole time.
I feel like
Was
almost
Remember
like triggered from Remember Me. You
Sorry,
bringing
I
that
didn't
up.
mean to do that with
That
Caitlin
movie
on
Never
the show.
forget Remember Me.
It was so
Never
bad.
bring up Remember Me. Never bring up Marry Me.
Just
Remember Me?
let's
Remember
just forget
me?
about me.
Was Remember Me the one where he went to the top of a building and then a plane made him shiny in the sun?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Edward Cullen came out of the building.
Edward Cullen. All right, Cassie, it's up to you. Mild Ass versus Conclave.
mild ass for me.
Greg?
Yeah, I think my old ass. I'm gonna go with that.
Caitlin?
My old ass.
Mild ass.
I will go with Conclave, but it matters not. Mild Ass moves on.
Sounds like you're saying mild ass, and it's very fun.
It smells like
Ass.
mild
That's what I
ass.
think I have.
I don't want the spicy ass. I just want the mild ass, please.
We're white, so just mild, please.
All right, let's do this fast. Did anybody fucking see the bike riders in Jodie Comer's fucking Chicago performance?
The best guy.
A movie devoted to random accents.
No one's on the same page, and it's the most beautiful thing I've
What
ever
if
witnessed.
Tom Hardy's accent is a guy who saw Marlon Brando's biker movie and now he talks like this?
I have to say,
That's in the
Yes.
movie, though. He
Yeah.
watches that
Yeah.
movie. That's not Mike making a joke.
Another movie, like we said about Nosferatu, vibes. This is a vibey-ass vibe movie.
Full
while
yeah.
also being like,
vibes.
oh, your He-Man Woman Haters Club? It's fucking stupid. Bikers are actually the stupidest doofballs in the world.
well, especially they remind me of like Mitch McConnell. They're not necessarily the most evil thing in the world, but they helped
Yes.
birth the most evil thing in the
Yeah.
world. Like they are just like, we're gonna be tough and we're gonna sock guys wearing our jackets. But then by the end of the movie, some of the guys moving in are like
Yes.
racist meth
Yeah.
smoking
Just Norman
Yeah.
Reedus's.
lunatics who are trying to.
And
Yeah.
all the old school people are like,
Yeah, they're
like-
out.
And it's it's a very real thing, which is they started like some of the troops started coming back from Vietnam and they were like cracked and they had all this like training and then
they had this training, but they also had a brotherhood
yeah
that they miss.
Yeah.
and the one thing I have to say about this movie, and I think this goes to the vibe point, is I remember watching it, I remember liking it, I look back on it and I can't remember a ton about it except for like
I can remember beat for beat, and I can't tell you why. this movie connected. It's also weirdly very pretty.
Yes.
Like very
no,
beautifully
no,
shot.
yeah. I do think that for sure, that it's his sort of Goodfellas in that I don't need a lot of like thrusting story. I just want to hang back and shoot the scenes as well as I can.
And
It's the weirdest thing of getting this peek into this dysfunctional found family of these bike riders who, like, the main guy keeps getting literally beat within an inch of his life because he won't take his jacket off, and like that's how they are. They will die for their crew.
Oh
And
yeah,
Cool.
I read the autobiography of Sonny Barger, who's the leader of the Hells Angels, and they're like, you can steal my woman, you can steal my bike, you can stab me. All of that stuff I will accept, but if you try to take the patch off my jacket, I have no choice but to try to kill you.
it's the craziest thing to
learned
get a peek
sew
into.
so I could make this jacket. I'll be damned. But
That'd be awesome if Mike was the fastest slower in the Bike Riders Club. And so when they ripped it off, he was like,
I
hold
got
on.
this. Back in the gang, bitch.
I do think that the reason I watched this movie is because I wanted to see bikes, and I think there could be more
There
bikes
could be
in
more
it.
bikes.
But you do see some
It is
bikes.
heavily
I
focused on
did
the
want
bike
to see some
riders,
riding.
Unfortunately.
I wanted to see the riding in formation, and there's good riding in formation.
Yeah.
Jeff Nichols is so good at genre hopping, but not like in a big flashy way. But I guess there's a generation of directors who are doing this. Like Ryan Johnson's one of them. But with Midnight Special and sci-fi, with I guess Loving is just historical drama. Mud is like a mystery. Like he's just like, I'm gonna do this movie. Like, but it's always these like character driven, vibey ass, gorgeous little stories.
And my favorite movie of his
Take
is Take
Shelter,
Shelter,
yes.
which is a disaster movie with no disaster. Like, what does it do to the family when the disasters come? Basically, like Twisters. It's as good as Twisters.
Which got already knocked off. How?
If you feel
there was
it-
two, Ryan. There was two.
If you feel it, take shelter, folks. That's the actual.
Take Shelter rules. And Mike Shannon
Yes.
is his go-to guy. He's also in this movie. Just so scared, and he tells his story of how he became a bike rider in this movie, and they're just drinking a jug of wine the entire. Should we implement that into our
Yes,
hangouts?
More
Jug of
jugs of
wine.
wine.
Passing around a jug of wine. What kind of wine? Oh, don't ask that. You'll get fucking bike righted. Greg, here we go.
We have to mention before we go on that this does
Sure.
have a Challenger's boy, the other Challenger's boy.
Mike Feist?
Yeah, he plays
What does he
Danny.
do?
He's Danny.
Oh, he's the reporter, right?
Third party, yeah.
Yeah. I really love him.
Cub reporter.
He stole West Side Story. That
Yes.
guy is also going places. Greg, your number 5 seed, which makes sense, I guess, is Nickel Boys.
Nickel Boys is based on the Colson Whitehead Pulitzer Prize winning novel of the same name. It's about
Nope. It's called The Nickel Boys. Continue.
Inspired by.
It is about this young guy named Elwood who is a rising academic star, but he is walking to his college and he gets picked up by a guy who happened to steal a car, and then he gets sent to this like reform school, but it's really like a prison, and basically it's a place where boys are beaten and tortured and even killed, and it's about this friendship he forms with this other student of the school, inmate Turner. And the most notable thing about it is shot like completely in POV, alternating between Turner and Elwood for the beginning of the movie. It's like all Elwood. You see him growing up. You see like flashes of his life, and then when he
Very Malikian, very like the Tree of Life, Terrence Malick style.
Yeah, like there's these rhythms to it, and the scenes don't necessarily run into each other. Most scenes are like it all kind of alternates between the action of the movie, like drama, and then these sort of like interstitial musical and visual interludes. I said this about a movie earlier, La Chimera, but it is the kind of movie you have to watch multiple times. Like there is so much there. It is such a rich text, but it is completely engrossing. And the number one, the POV element of it, I think some people are turned off by it or think it's gimmicky or something like that. I think it takes a couple of scenes to get used to, but once you do, and once the movie is complete and you see the reason why it was done, I think it's a good choice, and I think it's one of the most beautiful movies that I've seen in years. And I was just like, I don't know, completely blown away by it.
It's the ballsiest choice for sure. I mean, he was nominated for first time filmmaker at some award show, Gotham Awards maybe. He's not. He made a documentary, and this sort of speaks. Like, you could watch this movie and say, like, oh, I bet he's made a documentary before, right?
It's about real things.
The POV thing, yeah, the POV thing, I think it's all I heard about before I watched the movie. And not only is it so ballsy, and that's why I heard about it, but it's also the literally only easy thing to talk about when talking about this movie.
Yeah.
It is so just horrifying, and you're put into this movie so hard in a way that the POV helps but is not necessary. And the way that he takes his time with the torture of these boys. Greg said that it takes multiple viewings, but it's not Tarkovsky, right? It is so engrossing right away. It's just that you miss stuff because of all the details.
The scenes are not completely connected to one another, and so you have to, what you don't see and what you have to surmise, that takes a little bit of work. You have to kind of connect the scenes, and I think it's a great effort. It's a very interesting thing to do, and ultimately you come away, I think, with the right conclusions about what's going on. But it's just like you do have to sort of like ground yourself and pay a lot of attention to it to understand what the connections between the scenes are sometimes.
There's flash forwards that there's something about the flash forwards that I won't spoil, but the way that the flash forwards are shot does sort of it is a gasp moment. The twist at the end, which I don't want to talk about, but like I thought that was a little bit not well done.
See, I disagree because I think that like you notice the way the movie is filmed, right? And you notice it and you're like, there has to be an explanation for this. Like, what is grounded in the text of this movie that accounts for the way in which it's shot? And I think by the end of the movie, you get that, no, this comes from the story. Like, this isn't just a decision that I made as like a movie maker. There's a reason.
This was not a studio demand.
Yeah, it communicates something. And by the end of the movie, you're like, I do. And there's like additional things that get communicated by different camera angles and stuff like that. So it's exciting, and it's not just a gimmick. It's like an important element of it.
Yeah, I mean, there is nothing gimmicky about it. I mean,
I also felt the ending coming based on casting. Like, I do think if you look at
I think that's part of it too, is that I think that it was spoiled by casting such a famous person.
Yes, okay, I see what you're saying.
But like I get this feeling so rarely of watching a movie and being like, this is nothing like I've ever seen. This is, and I will not think about things the same ever again.
And like a timely movies like this used to feel like they only painted a picture of the past, but unfortunately more and more movies like this feel like they're also a window into our potential futures. Like the segregation shown in this movie, like that force feels like it is ascendant again.
Yeah, just so you guys know, they get taken to a reform school and the white kids get taken to a summer camp and the black kids get taken to a torture.
I'm sure
the white kids like run around playing catch.
I'm sure it's separate but equal.
Separate but equal, yeah. All right. I think that Greg and I can go on for hours, but it is time to vote. Mike, the Bike Riders or Nickel
Well, here's
Boys?
my question, Ryan, that's really going to determine my answer is, does Ramel Ross have a brother whose band had a song called Nickel Boys come out 20 years ago about the same story? Because I know Jeff Nichols' brother, Ben Nichols' band, had the Bike Riders song come out 20 years ago. That band's Lucero.
I don't think so.
It's Nickel Boys.
Oh,
it's
shit.
Nickel Boys. Come on. I just wanted to scare you.
The Bike Riders.
Greg?
Nickel Boys.
Cassie?
Do you get a vote?
I do.
Okay, because it needs to be made right, but I am who I am, so Bike Riders.
I love all of that in you, Cassie.
We have some movies. We have 4 movies in. We have to kick out 4 more movies. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to do that. And we are back, and we are ready for our number 2 seed. Mike, please tell me, who is it Ani, or do you call her Honora?
I'm going to call the character Ani, as she wishes to be called, but the movie is called Honora. And hey, you little weird freaks who are mad about that, you're fucking weirdos. The creator he can do whatever he wants. The movie's called Honora. There's a reason for it.
Wait, are people upset because the character goes by...
They're dead naming her by calling her Honora.
I think that cheapens what dead naming is and means.
Yeah.
And 2, you're fucking the weird little freaks, and I don't understand the youth. This is the moment where I became old. Doesn't matter. Our boy, is he Pop Filter Hall of Famer yet?
He's not, and I wish that you hadn't brought that up because he was definitely my next nominee. So don't steal that, guys.
But Sean Baker, he like
has
Eggers,
2 movies of the year.
2 movies of the year.
Yeah.
4 for 4. So like, in the scheme of things, a younger filmmaker historically, and just every time he's like, I'm gonna do this slice of life, and this is what is it like to be a Eastern European descended Brooklyn born sex worker. And it's Mikey Mills. Is that?
Yeah.
Madison.
Madison Mills? Mikey Madison.
No, Mikey Madison. Sorry.
Mikey Madison from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Or
Better Things.
more importantly, Better Things. And she fucking crushes it. And she just falls in with this Russian fail son who is in strip clubs, and then they get married, and he's super rich, but it's really sucking off a daddy's teat, and it's just what happens when you end up marrying a not real adult.
Yes.
Metaphorically, not legally. And then it's kind of a gang movie, but it's so fucking funny, but it's also heartfelt. Yeah, this movie. Sean Baker, this kid's going places.
You spend the whole time so afraid for her because she
Yes.
just won't take no for an answer, and yet she is kind of partially vindicated in the end.
I mean, I think that there's one scene of the movie, and that is the scene that separates the fairy tale from the reality, but also the reality also creates a new fairy tale of their journey through New York. But it's the scene where they invade, and she is held down by somebody that she sort of falls for later.
Yeah.
And that's where she really shows. Both Mikey and Honora shows, like, I am not do not live life like you think I should or would.
Right. And they don't know how to, they're big dudes, and they like have the like caring of thugs, but they are not actual gangsters. They get so far in life reputation and expectations.
Right.
And when she stands up to that, they're like, oh, what the fuck? And it becomes Home Alone-esque in the best way possible.
Yeah. She gives one of the 3 thugs a concussion that is with him the entire, like, he is out of commission the entire movie and just throwing up.
The concussion, and that I felt he runs after the kid who just sprints and leaves his new wife and slips on ice and hurts his back. And I hurt my back the same weekend I watched this movie, and man, did I feel for that guy the whole movie.
And then when he got the top of his head burnt and a tarantula was on it, and a paint can flew right in his head. I mean, to watch Sean Baker's growth, and I don't know if you guys sort of believe that Honora is his, princess or streetwalker becoming princess, like the movie is, of him making these very low budget movies, and now he is the big time. It's weird to call Honora big time, but to watch his growth as far as it doesn't matter the amount of money I have, I will focus on these characters that no one will ever focus on, and it's not just the fringes of society. If you think about Tangerine to the Florida Project to Red Rocket to Honora, it is sex workers. Like, very specifically, it is people who will cross these taboo lines in order to survive.
And it's like the margins are closer to the center than we imagine.
Right.
Like the poverty that is right around Disney World, or the hotels that are just on major streets.
These are your
actually,
neighbors.
Yeah, that are actually like where sex workers are all like working together. It's like this is integrated into our society. It is a major component of our society. And Honora takes this one step further, I think, which is to, like, by bringing in Russian oligarchs, like the sort of transnational crime-ish networks that exist, that these things are like legitimate and illegitimate life are woven together so tightly that to like say that we can chastise the illegitimate part of life is just ridiculous, because there's no true difference.
And I mean, like, going back to the first 40 minutes, which I think is what most people know about if they've only seen the trailer.
That's all you're prepared for if you've seen the trailer.
I was swept away. I was, watching one of my favorite rom-coms of all time, not knowing what could come, but it definitely did. I knew that he was dumb and she was whatever, but I was swept away. And then to watch the 3 other movies that fall in front of that, like, it was an incredible experience.
And I mean, she's not hoodwinked by him. She's like sort of hoodwinked by, money, by the idea
what if
of
my problems could be solved?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I think people might you brought it up, Brian, but I think people might miss how much of a fairy tale it's supposed to be, because one of the complaints I hear about this is that it is in some way reductive. Or like, it shows sex workers as naive, but I think it shows this one sex worker who believes in this fairy tale.
Right, who is very much not naive, but every once in a while it could work out, and she buys it. I mean, there's a 10-minute.
She's trying to
young.
manifest something. She's trying to manifest something through the power of belief, which is a fairy tale story.
There's a 10-minute scene where they're in the bed together, and he's like, "Let's go to Vegas and get married," and she's like, "Shut the fuck up, no way." Like she doesn't buy it until she does, and then how quickly he's able to just bounce out of it and be like, "Nah, bro, just kidding." All right, guys, it's going up. I'm going to throw to you, Greg. It's going up against Babes.
And I'm just voting here.
No, I mean, do you have anything more to say?
I love Babes. It's a really good time. I feel like it feels a little outclassed with some of these other movies. We even have a comedy that I think is like better than it, but I enjoyed it. I recommend everybody go see it. Michelle Buteau is so funny. Alana Glazer is so funny, and then there's a lot of heart there. And I think that its version of love and its version of family are the ascendant versions.
Cassie, here we go. Honora or Babes?
Honora.
Greg?
Honora.
Caitlin?
If I could talk about Babes for just a second.
Of course.
Because I feel like Babes gives a really good view of what it's like to be a pregnant person, and like you going to the doctor's appointment, it's like, oh, no one told me that this would happen, or like these crazy things. Oh, what? I'm gonna have to get tested for what? All these different kinds of things, and then the way that you just need someone to lean on and be there, and just the crazy things that happen while being a pregnant person. I, as someone who had literally recently just had a child and then watched that movie like very much postpartum, I was like, this movie hits so hard. It's very good. So I'm going Babes. Sorry.
I had that same feeling when I watched Furiosa because I had just bought gasoline. So I know what you're saying.
You had the paint still on your face.
Yeah.
Witness me.
Mike?
I just found out Caitlin's a mom. That's crazy. What a weird
Wow.
way to find out.
Wild, right?
Honora.
Honora moves on. Cassie, it is time.
Yeah.
Love Lies Bleeding.
Let's freaking go, guys. This
movie has everything.
This has everything. First of all, a messy lesbian relationship. The messiest you could see. You get two people who absolutely should not be together. They are not good together, but you root for them so hard, even though you're like, you guys are ruining each other. But I am so happy to see you guys.
This was
on
kind of
screen
the
together.
year of like super bad, super messy queer relationships.
Yeah, and we don't ever get that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to see. You get to see either like they are meant to be this fairy tale thing,
And they're
then one of them,
perfect and to be idolized because, yeah.
and
But then
one will
society
die.
grinds them up.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, most relationships so messy, and you see it in this one. It's also just like you get beefcake, like you get muscles,
Beefier and beefier.
Muscle mommies.
muscle mommy so much. This is like 90 minutes muscle mommy, and then it gets weird. But then
So deeply surreal. Apparently, if you do too many steroids, you start hallucinating, and so does the movie. And that's where things get fun, because muscle mommies get big.
they get real
They
big.
get real big.
But it's this, like, you have, like, in a lesbian relationship, it's always like, who is gonna protect in this situation? And when you have a muscle mommy, you're like, fucking that one.
The one that can
That one.
suplex our problems away.
And it like that relationship reminded me of so many relationships I have not been in, but have seen from afar and judged. Of Kristen Stewart is a child, and then starts going out with a child, like, and
Yeah.
she's like, oh, now I have to be the non-muscle mommy to this person who needs so much, but like,
And
Their dedication
she
to each
becomes
other.
the threat too. The
Right.
big
Yeah.
strong woman becomes the thing to worry about.
in the meantime, this movie, I would say, there's another movie that came out last year called Drive Away Dolls, which was a Coen brother movie.
Just the one.
That had a similar goal and premise that this movie fucking punished. And I would say that Love Lies Bleeding is our Coen brothers movie of the year. Not to take anything away from Rose Glass, but the way that it dives into genre and plays with genre all at the same time. And the Coen brothers also have this thing of like, we're going to do noir, but it's never going to be dark New York alleyways. We're going to go to like random ass bright cities and do it. This movie we're entering a town in Love Lies Bleeding where it's like owned by one man, and it's Kristen Stewart's dad. It's Ed Harris in, I think, the coolest hairstyle that's ever existed, which is shaved, bald head on top, long hair in the back.
Dude,
Yeah.
so long.
Just the most off-putting as soon as you see him on screen. You're like, oh, he kind of has like a worm vibe.
Kristen Stewart's like, my dad is bad. And Katie O'Brien's like, what? No, I never
This
would have
guy?
noticed.
This stand-up
This
guy.
Crypt Keeper-looking guy?
He owns the bowling alley and the gun shop. That's his job. And
That guy
then
parties.
it just keeps folding on to genre. Like, it just keeps diving into that genre pool. And then, I don't know how much we want to give away about the ending, but I feel like Rose Glass is like, wait, this is my movie? I'll do whatever the fuck I want, and does it.
A lot of movies, as the closer you get to the end of the movie, like the more warped reality gets.
Uh-huh.
And this is
Yeah.
one of them. But then also added to that is the fact that somebody is taking drugs that is warping their perception of reality at the same time.
What's that Boots Riley movie from a couple years ago?
Thank you.
you.
Okay, at the same time, guys.
But what is this? Sorry to bother you.
Sorry to bother you.
It reminded me of that, of like, I'm going to keep pushing my worldview
Yeah.
until we pass zero
Yes.
and then go into the craziness.
Horse country.
Horse country. I fucking love this. This movie like delivered everything I needed at the time of just and the fact, like, again, the fact that these two people were ignored for Best Actress, baffling to me.
Yeah, this one, like, I never heard, like, Kristen Stewart gets shat on so much for her acting, and this one everybody was like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Like, she popped off on it.
I think that part of it is that she needs to rely less on her little peccadillos when acting, and this movie definitely had it. And her love/frustration, which is, that's what being in a relationship is, that's what shined. Cassie, I'm going to go back to you.
Let's go.
I saw the TV glow.
Man, this, I haven't had an experience like with watching a movie like this in I don't even know how long. It takes you from such a high to like leaves you at this strung out part at the end where there is no resolution. I'll talk about the plot so people who don't know.
Uh-huh.
There is there's a series that is like a mystery, I guess. Like,
CW show.
It's like
Yes.
Goosebumps.
yeah. And there's these two kids who just like really like they're the only two who really care about it, and they just find each other. They start watching it together. But what I had no idea is this is just a trans story. So you get this little peek, and as a queer person watching it, you see the trans colors in like this little like that game at PE where they would throw up the tent and you would walk under.
When they would bust out the parachute in PE for that one day a
Dude,
year.
The best day.
the
And you're
only
like,
day I enjoyed
you
during
flip it
PE.
up in the air and then everyone sits under it and you're like sitting in a little mushroom for a little bit. You do the ball on it.
The best day. And I got to relive that joy in a different way because I saw those colors and I was like, there's no fucking way. And then you just like slowly get little pieces together. So like when they put in the tape, they kind of like live, they are these characters. And when he goes into it, he's a girl, or he is who she is. It's so hard to talk about.
Yeah.
But then like as soon as I saw that, I literally had to pause it and I took like a lap. I was like, we are in this.
Could have been thinking about this.
We are getting this. And you just get to see, like, you get a really personal feel of like what it is to go through trying to figure out that you are trans, and it takes you to the point of like you have this realization but you are not ready to face it yet, and it puts you in that as the viewer, and you like to have no resolution at the end is crazy. To
Well,
leave
I
it
mean,
at that peak is crazy.
If we can talk about this movie's ending, one of the most haunting endings of the year, where it's what's his name, Detective Pikachu, Justice Smith, and he is in a sweater as a dude having a new TV delivered to his family. Like, it did not work out for him.
Yeah.
Again, this is one of those movies where the longer the movie goes on, the more reality starts to break down. I would call this movie almost like Lynchian in that it tells, on one hand, a very personal, very realistic story about two people trying to navigate their identities together. And then at the same time, it is also this completely surreal, hyper-real experience that, like, is kind of haunted and haunting. This is one of the scariest movies from the year at certain parts, like just deeply scary and deeply off-putting.
It was in the horror bracket, right?
It was in the horror bracket,
But-
and I think rightfully so.
And very Lynchian in that, like, I'm going to be very specific with my dreams, but y'all are going to connect to it in some way, you know? Like, you're going to figure
There's
out
an evil moon man, and I don't want to see him anymore.
An evil moon man, that's the guy who shows his butt all the time. It's so gross. So we have here two movies that try to describe the queer experience but burying it in genre so they don't get arrested by Trump, I guess. Let's go to Mike for the vote. I Saw the TV Glow versus Love Lies Bleeding.
I saw the TV Glow.
Kaylin?
Love Lies Bleeding.
Greg?
I think I Saw the TV Glow is going to be one of the movies that is talked about for like decades that came out this year. So I'm going to say I Saw the TV Glow.
Cassie?
This is a bummer, but it's just so hard. I saw the TV Glow.
Oh, my goodness. I Saw the TV Glow moves on. I would have voted for Love Lies Bleeding, but nobody cares. Let's go to a movie that we have not talked about a lot yet, although we've talked about the country in last week's episode. Mike, All We Imagine Is Light.
Okay.
Is that the right title?
Yes.
Okay.
All We Imagine Is Light. I did often get certain words confused talking about I Saw the TV Glow and All We Imagine Is Light. Just switch certain words. They're synonymous. Movies are very different. All We Imagine Is Light is a story of three women in Mumbai. Two are nurses. There's an elder nurse. Not elder, but she's older. And she takes like the mentor role. And then her husband is in Germany. It was an arranged marriage. They haven't talked in a year, let alone
They literally have not talked on the phone in over a year.
They high-fived at the wedding 15 years ago,
Yes.
and then he bounced.
And then the younger nurse is secretly seeing a Muslim man. She is not Muslim. In some countries, not this super forward-thinking countries, that's fine with whoever dates whoever, that's frowned upon. So they have to hide, and it is hard. And then they have a friend, Parvati, who is a worker that the older nurse becomes friends with, and then she is pushed out because there's no paperwork. Her husband's dead, and they're like, well, your name wasn't on any of the paperwork, so you have to move out because it's about capitalism, guys. This whole movie is also about capitalism and how it sucks. And they
want to build like a big building.
Yeah, we need a big fucking shiny-ass building.
Yeah.
Mumbai is like almost all big buildings, as the movie reveals. Like you just like look across the city, it's all huge buildings, and they want to put up another one.
We need more. And it makes it seem, I could see somebody dumb watching this movie and be like, oh, Mumbai sucks or India sucks. No, just like, here, I'll do this relation, listeners. You know how the creator of Squid Games thought he was just making a movie about Korea and how that sucks? It's no, capitalism sucks and it is crushing all of us. That is what All We Imagine Is Light is about. It is.
Mike, are you one of the hosts of the podcast 5 to 4?
Not yet. I am auditioning. It is so. It's such a gorgeous, quiet movie.
Let's talk about gorgeous first, and then we'll get to quiet. Mumbai sucks because everything sucks, but Mumbai is a beautiful, nonstop moving place. It reminded me of a Wong Kar-wai movie, most specifically In the Mood for Love, in that, like, I'm just going to put the camera on the city. And it's so hustling and bustling. And, I'm not going to use, like, CGI or even in-camera tricks, maybe a little bit of fast forward or whatever, but, like, the way that this city looks and how it just keeps moving on despite the fact that these women have problems. What is that, like, it is the official, how every city has their movie. This is the Mumbai movie of all time. Like, the city is incredible.
And it's chock full of life. I mean, it is... It's incredible, but it's also like a huge like prison, basically. I mean, people talk about it as like a place of illusions, and you go there and you can't leave, but you're not really like living. You're just like everyone is just like traveling from place to place constantly.
Well, if you do leave, you're in a village, and that means you failed.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say to elaborate, Greg, on your if you're traveling from place to place, is Anu, the younger nurse, is traveling to see her boyfriend. His parents are gone, so like, we're gonna finally fuck. And she has to get a burqa because he's like, my neighborhood. And she's on her way there, which I assume is like an hour and a half away by train in the same city. And then he calls. He's like, yeah, wedding's canceled. Do not come. And she looks so devastated because you're just gonna be on that train for fucking ever. Like.
And some earlier in the movie, there's like documentary bits in this movie, like just a couple of them here and there. But the beginning is a couple of different people talking about like the experience of living in Mumbai. What somebody says is that that city is constantly stealing time from you because you have to travel in these big crowds. And then when they were filming this, Mumbai is like a rainy place, but it rained basically the entire time. And so the whole movie, everything is wet and everyone's crammed together. And so you see like a lot of life and a lot of beauty, but also you see like how it's just so intense to live there and to just try to survive there for just a little bit in a place that never stops moving and never stops filling up with more people.
And like the director, Vayal Kapadia, like the way that she will put the quietest conversation in an apartment, but with an open window where the city is still going fucking nuts.
Yeah, the lady that's being forced out of her house, like when they finally get there, it kind of seems like one whole side of it is just open up to the city. It's not even like she's not even trying to stay in like a very nice place. And so like, and there's another scene where the main character is reading by a window and there's a train going by, and it's just like there's not actually the difference between living in the apartment and living like in the city itself. It's kind of like the city permeates everything.
The other thing too is that these three characters, Mike, that you listed are women. And if this was an American movie, it would be Angela Bassett or Sarah Jessica Parker just railing on how hard it, like, how do I even do it?
Right.
You know, like this movie never does that, but the movie makes it very clear how much worse it is for these three people than for any dude that is in their life. We don't have a lot of dudes in this movie. The one I want to point out is a doctor who falls in love with the middle character, who knows that her husband is gone and is yet like, I love you anyway, and do you want to be happy? And she can't because of her long gone
propriety.
husband.
There's so much like what customs and propriety really infuses, and even railing against it would be improper, so they don't. Like that's the read I got watching this movie.
She hears her young mentee is just dating a boy before she even knows
How
that there's
dare
like
you.
And she's like, she's not like that.
Yeah.
What do you mean she's not like that? She's like 22 years old. Of course she's like that. We all want to be dating people when we're that age.
One of the things I love about this movie is that the middle woman and the doctor are in a park on swings. Like this is a classic rom-com move. And she knows that she likes him and he likes her, and she has to get up and leave because that's what society dictates.
And their movie has proven that you can't do anything without everybody knowing about it.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's also part of what she's thinking
for
about.
sure.
There's no way to discreetly actually do this anyway.
I mean, that scene happens in the beginning where he's like, oh, you forgot your thing or whatever. And then people start looking at him immediately.
Yeah.
All right, Cassie, that is going up against Vim Vender's Perfect Days, or as we call it, Tokyo Toilet Cleaner. What are you thinking?
All We Imagine Is Light?
Yeah.
That one.
Greg?
All We Imagine Is Light, Ryan.
Caitlin?
I will really want to see them toilets clean.
Just for once in your life.
I love when Caitlin becomes a chef at a Cajun restaurant. Goddamn, I want to see those toilets clean. Mike?
All We Imagine Is Light.
And that definitely does move on.
Wait, it's
Mike?
not called Tokyo Toilet Cleaner, Ryan?
It's called
It's
Fast and
not,
Furious: Tokyo Toilet Cleaner.
Hero dreams of urinals.
I truly thought it was part of the Fast and Furious film base. I'm sorry.
We're going to do this one kind of fast, so I need the arguers to step up because we talked about both these movies last week. It's The Substance versus Hundreds of Beavers. One of these belongs in our Elite Eight. What is it? Go.
I'm not sure what the more 2024 movie is either. These are both very like unique properties from the year.
I'll say what The Substance is saying about society and Hollywood feels. It's unfortunate that this kind of message is around, but it feels very of the time and very needed and necessary. Hidden, not that hidden, but delivered so perfectly in a batshit genre film.
Yeah, I wouldn't say hidden.
No,
It's not
hidden
movie
at
at all.
I don't know if Dennis Quaid understood what the movie was about, but everybody else does.
Was The Substance black and white?
It was not. It was I'd say ultra color, if that is a
Did
thing.
it have dialogue? Did it have shout outs to video games?
Yeah.
No, just
All right, let's go to a
80s
vote.
tapes.
Cassie, hundreds of beavers or hundreds of needles put into old holes?
Well, when you put it that
He's
way.
thumbing the scale.
I'm sorry.
No.
Hundreds of beavers or the wonderful film, The Substance?
I'm gonna go Substance.
Greg,
I loved Hundreds of Beavers, but I think I'm also going to say The Substance.
Caitlin.
Give me those beavers.
She is a non-stop drop creator. Mike.
The Substance.
The Substance barely wins in the closest vote of the night. When we come back, we're going to determine what is the greatest movie of 2024. Michael.
Yes, sir.
It is Challengers versus the People's Joker. What are you doing?
Okay. A movie that feels very personal and specific and timely, The People's Joker, versus a movie that feels very old school and like they don't make them like we used to. I will say, while I love that The People's Joker exists and its singular vision, the Challengers is a movie, and this is a movie podcast, so my vote is for Challengers.
Harsh, but
so
harsh.
at the end.
Caitlin, what do you think?
That was wild, Mike. I'm gonna go with Challengers too.
Challengers 2? I did not know there. Okay.
Yeah,
Finish the
yeah. They
rest.
challenged each other again. two challenged, two furious.
Same again? Same match? Greg?
Yeah, it's like good effort on The People's Joker, but even more than that, wonderful experience. Everybody definitely should see it. But I think ultimately the superior movie is The Challengers. The Challengers.
The Challengers.
Just go with it. Just
That's about the rocket ship.
Yeah, the rocket ship.
The sexy, sexy rocket ship.
Oh.
Cassie, here we go.
I'm so glad that The People's Joker is out there now and you can watch it and it's made. And if you haven't watched it, check it out. But Challengers.
Super interesting take, but I was about to ask you about the next battle.
No.
It's My Old Ass versus Nickel Boys.
Oh. My old ass.
Greg?
I loved My Old Ass, and it was surprisingly poignant and really hit me in the feels, and also just had a great debut performance by what's her name again, Ryan?
Maisie Daisy.
Maisie Daisy. As well as Aubrey Plaza. But Nickel Boys is movies like Nickel Boys are why I get excited about watching movies and why I get excited about talking about movies with people. And I feel like there's so much that's still in there. And I can't believe it's this guy's essentially his first movie.
Narrative film, yeah.
Yeah. He has so much skill and he has got a very interesting sense of pacing. And I think it might be the best movie of the year, Nickel Boys.
Caitlin?
I'm going with My Old Ass.
Mike?
The ending rocked my world.
Rocked your what?
It rocked my world. And something that I literally just keep thinking about, just pops up in my head, the twist in it and everything. And yeah, it's My Old Ass.
The movie will stay with you forever.
It stays.
Mike?
We talk about how I'm a weepy boy.
Yes.
Only one movie made me cry this year, and it was My Old Ass.
I also cried during My Old Ass, Mike, and I never cry during movies.
It even gets rocks like Greg.
So that's it. Nickel
But
Boys is
it's
out.
Nickel Boys.
Oh, fuck.
Nope, I didn't vote. I was talking it out. I was listening to you. You said talk out your
Much
thought
like in
process.
2024, Mike had not voted.
I just don't believe in it. And I told everybody they probably shouldn't. And I live in a purple state.
All right, Mike. I hesitate to go back to you for a vote because of how confusing it is to me. But it's
I thought I was doing what everybody else did, but apparently I confused Ryan.
It's a Nora versus I Saw the TV Glow.
I'm not gonna do what you
y'all
think I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just freak out.
Next week,
Who's
everybody.
coming with me? It's Nora.
Caitlin?
Anora.
Greg?
Oh, wow. I loved Nora. It was the movie I was most excited to see of the entire year. And if you had told me ahead of time I was going to be voting on this one in particular, I think I might have said that I was going to go with Nora. But I think, honestly, in a lot of ways, I just find I Saw the TV Glow more exciting and more interesting. I saw Nora, and I think it's in there. I think I got the experience already. I Saw the TV Glow. There's layers and layers and layers to it. So I'm going with I Saw the TV Glow.
Cassie.
I haven't had a viewing experience like that, and I don't think ever. So I saw the TV glow.
I mean, you said that you took a walk around your neighborhood.
I had to take a walk.
And she hates walking.
Did you pause the movie?
I did.
Okay.
I came back and I was lost.
Yeah,
It's
going on?
It's already a complicated movie, but if you miss out on like 18 minutes of it,
When's this fucking TV gonna glow? By the chinny chin chin of its teeth, Honora moves on. All right, Cassie. All we imagine as light versus the substance.
Ooh.
Two basically the same movies, right?
This is crazy. Substance.
Greg?
I think in a lot of ways the Substance is like obviously it's the bigger movie. It's the more 2024 movie. I loved it, and I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it so much. But again,
It won Best Horror of the Year.
It won Best Horror of the Year.
Ooh.
But again, like, what makes me excited to see movies are like these really true, perhaps devastating depictions of like what I see as reality. And I think that what gets closer to that is All We Imagine as Light.
Caitlin?
All We Imagine is Light.
Mike?
I think if you heard us talk about All We Imagine is Light and the substance is very like eye catchy and it zips and it zaps, even though it's way longer than you'd expect.
It never
to be. You don't
zaps,
feel that
though.
time go. It does not zop. It did not go through 101.
I didn't buy the course.
Improv joke.
But I will say, if you heard us describe All We Imagine is Light, is like that's going to be boring. Put your phone in another room. One, unless you know how to speak other languages, and fucking good for you, I guess. There's like 4 languages you speak in here. I'll describe it
A
this:
scene where Indian people talk about how complicated the Hindu language is.
Yes.
And you're like, wait, hang on. Hindi. Excuse me.
What? It is the film India doesn't want you to see.
Yeah.
That they refuse to put it. That's how I'm going to hook the listeners and make them watch you, because it is how that country feels. So there is truth here being spoken that they are uncomfortable with. All We Imagine is Light.
And then there was 4. Mike, I'm
Jesus.
going right back to you. Challengers versus Nickel Boys.
Nickel Boys.
Caitlin?
Challengers.
Greg?
Nickel Boys. That's the one.
Cassie?
Challengers.
It is. I love Challengers so much. Nickel Boys is.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
And now, Cassie,
Yeah.
it's Honora versus All We Imagine as Light.
No.
All we imagine is light.
Greg?
All We Imagine is Light.
Caitlin?
All We Imagine is
Oh
Light.
my fucking God. Mike, doesn't matter, but
Nora.
I'm Honora too, but it doesn't matter.
You're in the minority.
And then it's All We Imagine as Light versus Nickel Boys. This is the finals I think that we all hoped for. Mike,
I caught it last January.
what is the movie of the year?
All We Imagine is Light.
Caitlin?
All We Imagine is Light.
Greg?
Okay. I loved All We Imagine is
Yeah,
Light.
we're being
These-
fucking ridiculous
These
right
are
now.
the 2 most beautiful movies of the year. I really do believe that. But Nickel Boys just has this little extra. It's just doing something different, something a little bit newer, something a little bit more exciting. It's not by a ton, but for me, it's definitely Nickel Boys.
Cassie?
Nickel Boys.
Holy shit. Your 2024 movie of the year is Nickel Boys. Congratulations.
We did it. We got there. This was the right
As a
answer.
team. Whew. So I want to say not just congratulations to Nickel Boys and to Ramel Ross, but also to Shogun, to Girls 5 Eva, and to Dochi for creating quite the year for us.
Sick
Mike,
year.
are we doing a show where we have to put them together?
You know what? Yes, but not right now.
2 years hence.
2 years. Let's study them for 2 years, and then we're going to do it. Thank you guys for...
Thank you. We did it. 2024. We're closing the books on this bad boy.
Mike, do you have anything to promote?
Yeah, I would love to
All
promote.
right, that's enough. Caitlin, what do you got?
This couch is very comfy that I'm
All
definitely
right, buy
sitting on.
Caitlin's couch. Cassie, what do you got?
Superhero Show. Check it out.
Greg?
Shout out to Bedtime.
I'm going to be on a podcast called Film Board talking about Captain America Brave New World in depth. So, yeah, go check that out.
And, of course, please, all those Nickel boys, keep watching that movie.
Good job, everybody.
We did it.
We did it.
Me and Greg watched that movie so hard that we did it.